start with the only poem I've written about painting, since we're in a gallery. And it's inspired by a poem by Frank O'Hara called Why I'm Not a Poet. So kind of juxtaposes poem writing and painting. And in his poem, his friend is painting, has a painting which has sardines in it, and then he paints the sardines out of it. And he talks about his poem, which is about oranges, but doesn't have oranges in it. This is my poem. Why Joe is not a poet. Joe reads the first draft of my poem. It seems to be about a day of spring cleaning. There's a strong March wind. I call the wind a lion. It's a cliche, sure, but Joe knows what I'm talking about. In the poem, everything gets cleaned. The house smells like orange furniture polish and fresh air. I describe how nice it is the next day, Sunday, to rest in bed with a pile of books. I call it Month of Sundays. Joe thinks it's lovely. When I see Joe the next week, I show him the new version of the poem. It has a different name. There is no liony wind. In a strange way, it seems to be a poem about love, but Joe is not sure. He liked the poem the other way. Joe is not a poet. He is a painter. When he started his painting of sardines, he wanted to paint sardines. He wanted to show how dutifully they line up in their tins, how the light hits each one a little differently. Joe falls in love with sardines while he's painting them. He paints and he paints. He adds some red for an accent just to draw attention to how beautiful sardines are. I'm going to do another one on the creative process before I get into some of the emotional. This one is called Kingfisher. I wait for your rusty hinged voice, the announcement of blue wing among the maples and sycamores. I see you dive beneath the surface, seek what glimmers in the murk. I watch every breakthrough, the way you tunnel, how you mine the sustaining silver, divine the coordinates of your prey. Dauntless, you shatter the mirroring pain, like some tireless knight, some blue-clad questing king. The next poem is about my birth, actually. And I was a transverse lie baby, which means that you're crosswise. And actually, my granddaughter who was born yesterday was also a transverse lie baby.
Congratulations.
It was kind of interesting. Although today they do C-sections. My birth was a little messier than that. So, okay. Transverse lie. Me, set crosswise to my mother's body, hung sideways like St. Andrew crucified. I chose that line, nestled along the wrong anatomical plane, my lie in opposition to my birth, to my emergence. It seems I wanted to remain ensconced. Experts say some wound defect, some wrong tilt can foster the position, but I suspect the belly kick my father aimed at her or me made me lose my sense of space, the directional sense, any true divining line. The doctor pried me loose, dragged me out here, born if you can call it that, after 36 stitches in 52 hours, or 52 stitches in 36 hours. When it was done, they called me stranger, foreign one, who never feels at home. And whether the name was a gift or a curse, or a simple statement of fact, I still wrestle with the transverse fault, the tectonic shifting sideways to the goal. My crosswise soul believes the lie, that the world is not for me, and getting born is always an awful bloody business. I actually do have a very poor sense of direction, and I have a lot of trouble deciding what to do with my life, even at this late date. So, so a lot of my poems are kind of about that, and this next one is along those lines. It's called House in the Sand. At night, the house lights illuminate the broom sedge and poverty grass in the unkempt yard, expose the failed attempt at a rock garden. Out here on the coastal plain, none of the rocks are native. Bedrock is 1,000 feet down, and every house is built on sand. In other places, the roads veer. They rise and fall over every hill. Changes in bearing, turns are inevitable. Here, without the shepherd substrate, Roads reach out toward a horizon, only to dissolve into the vanishing point. I lack the metal homing pigeons have, the magnetic sense of a migrating bird. I wish I could fathom my way down to the gnarled, metamorphosing foundation. Maybe I could find a newly opened vein, some fracture line to lead me home. My next poem is a very old poem. I wrote in my 20s, inspired by my mother's blue parakeet. It's called Molting. The parakeet molts, feathers float in the blue heat of afternoon. My soul is bleached bone dry, a desert of relentless sun. Light and heat, heat and light. Surely I have something to lose. My ears are marbled with mourning. Doves call from the black walnut tree. Hazy shimmers hammer air, while locusts drill a song of heat. I sit, clipped wings in a cage. And it's me with the soft underbelly, and it's me with the excess of down. I am tender with these extrications. I yield reluctant to the loss, the gradual surrender of winter clouds. Dark and heavy with burden, gathered and brooding, I release one by one superfluous crystals of meaning. Numerous and white flakes of fear I shed. As they pile and drift, I feel unnaturally light, almost weightless, and shot through with streaks of brightness. The old stars fall down in the midst of afternoon. My next poem was actually inspired by a couple of dreams and images. There were geraniums, and there was a heart-shaped box with drawers in it, and this is what I got out of it. It's called When Losing Is Everything. My heart would be a geranium, longing for a patch of sun, except for its fine cabinet work, its many compartments and finely wrought doors, which open and close with swift precision. If it weren't for the emergency exits, the carefully constructed firewalls, and fail-safe plans of escape, my mind could be a glorious fire. My thoughts could burn their way onto pages in wise flaming tongues, which everyone would want to read. My life might have been a diamond, multifaceted and resplendent, but this willful light exposes every polished and hopeful plane. It shines, and I begrudgingly reflect as each supposed aspect of me is revealed, then disappears. This light is a hard taskmaster. There is no hiding under gourds and vines for me either, Jonah. It seems I must continue with this deliberate sparkling until I become nothing but a smooth, clear stone. And some of you may not know that reference to Jonah. After he was escaped from the whale, he actually still refused to follow God's will, and he hid out in the desert under some giant gourd vines. And that's where that reference comes from. I like the story of Jonah about refusing your calling. So I never know if I'm doing that or not. Right? Okay. My next poem has a word in it that you might not know. It's called serotinous. And I grew up near the Pine Barrens. I don't know if any of you have been there, but the Pine Barrens rely on fire. There wouldn't be pines, there would be oaks if it weren't for that. So many pine trees have a certain kind of cone called serotinous, and they open up when the fire goes through. So that word is in here. And this poem also, I had the idea like 10 years before I wrote it, and it was the Facebook post of one of my son's girlfriend that finally triggered the writing up. And I wrote it the day that I read her post. It's called The Phoenix Life. It's for A, who said, "Reborn from the ashes again, like a fucking phoenix. I too have lived the phoenix life, built the kindling nest of sticks and needles, dross and need, imagined loss, mastered the art of spontaneous combustion. My serotinous wings requiring a certain heat to spring them free. I was a phoenix or an arsonist, specializing in bridges. Well, one bridge that is, the one it would hurt me most to burn. I'd watch the embers and the ashes drift, the roadbed and its trusses sink, realize I'd stranded myself, abandoned myself on an island. Ashes taste like metal in the teeth. I learned this from the pitch pine. Oh, let me do that again because I missed one. Ashes taste like metal in the teeth. You have to eat them to grow green. I learned this from the pitch pine and the tender orchids who find the fresh burned patch. Like them, I love the tabula rasa of clean white sand, the delicate beginning of things, the balm of wings, the space to breathe, the outstretched and gentle palm, the forgiving fingers of my lover's hand. I thought to include one in honor of my husband who's here. And this poem I started in a poetry class, and it was way too sentimental. Poetry teachers don't like it. Things, and there has to be a but in it, and right? So I added my but I kept a lot of the imagery that really happened. So it's called Regarding a Failed Poem on a Grackle's Purple Shimmering. At first, the poem was too pretty. Who could believe the brief revelation of iridescent feathers could steal, let alone transform a moment? When I brought a man into it, and a pearlescent spider on a wedding dress, it was worse, though strangely it was true. It's a good thing I didn't mention how falling stars dogged our footsteps back in the beginning, and a rainbow on a wilderness lake 30 years ago still blesses a middle-aged marriage. Yes, I have slogged sewers of resentment, crucified myself on the black thorns of guilt and self-hatred, blamed him. I've been absent from my body, mourning some imagined loss or dreaming some impossible future. Nothing has ever been perfect. But in the real world, grackles, spiders, even mackerels, iridescent. Oh my God, do I not have the last page? I don't, okay. Rainbows are sent up in all the moist corners of the earth. Each morning, the early sun caresses the bare boles of trees in the tenderest way. During the day, infinite configurations of cloud and refracting light grace the sky. At night, there are stars. The ancient particles of their light really do touch the eye's lens. I have a poem that I wrote in workshop, and we had to choose some postcards, and I chose one that had a red tent on a beach, and there were some words were on another one of the postcards, and I used them as the last stanza of the poem. And it's called Welcome Back, Son. We've needed your help more than ever. Though we pitched our red tent in the sand on the white beach at Atacames in the province of the Esmeraldas, is splendid in every way, we were lost without you. Mostly, we holed up in the sopping tent, which took on the color of a new bruise in the almost blue light. Rain rattled in the palms, and the tropical air made our separate skins stick unpleasantly together. His was warm and brown. Mine was too pale without you. Dear son, don't think me ungrateful. The skin is a fabulous organ, and Patricio is the perfect lover, an artist even. He knows the skin is made to be touched. He traces designs on my throat and limbs. Sometimes I feel almost as warm as when I'm with you. But now you're back, and my skin's gone pink with your kisses. It stings a little when I swim in Atacames Bay. The red tent glows like a big red heart. The dry sand turns to sugar between our toes. My darling's eyes shine when he looks at me. There are gold flecks I know you put there. Dear son, because of you, I'm all happy here with Patricio, the one I love the best, except you. Okay, there's two more. Tiny poem I wrote alone in a restaurant in Philadelphia after a doctor's appointment. It's called Sushi for One. Balsam fir eyes, rainy day floor, tablecloth snow, forget-me-not scarf, moon crater bowl, tiger's eye tea, seaweed skin, jasmine rice rim, tamari lake, avocado pith, wasabi hill, awaken, heron mind, snowflake soul. Then when I was getting ready, I found this almost finished poem, and I hope it's good enough to read. It's called Something. Feel the lump in the throat, bittersweet like persimmon. Under the skin, the fruit gathers in and secrets the light. Seed in the dark womb, the self before and after the self. The silence absorbs the voice. Before the impulse to speak, dissembling the last word. Stay with the catch in the throat. Fathom, if you can, the pregnant ache. It knows what you need. Attend to the heart wall. It swells with what waits for you. Tell your persimmon soul you are ready to receive its gift. It could be sorrow. It could be singing.